Yeah,
Thank you.
I know our children, when they watch those programs
Yeah.
about stage schools, and they always talk about, oh, that one's a triple threat because they can dance and
Mhm.
Yeah,
sing and
yeah,
act, you know.
yeah.
So Michelle can dance and sing and act
And
and the
right.
writing,
Mhm.
you know. And then outside of all of that, you're doing something very, very remarkable in terms of the foundation. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah.
Yes. The World Reimagined is a charity that I
Yeah.
co-founded with Dennis Dennis Marcus, and it began with a conversation, very light conversation, when I first met him about
Mm.
the transatlantic enslavement of Africans, and just the fact that Britain hasn't really recognized its full role in the enslavement of
Mm.
Africans, because we're always told that William Wilberforce ended it. Isn't that wonderful? We're not often told about how complicit they were in the trade, how much money was made from the trade, how great establishments, including the church, are rich because of that trade.
Mm.
Um, and we just felt that there was a way to have this difficult conversation about not only just how much money was made from the trade, about the
Mhm.
repercussions because of that trade that are around today. So we really wanted
Yeah.
to use the past to link it to the present, and why certain things are a
Brilliant.
certain way, why
Wow.
you may think a certain way, why people are still hurting. We really wanted to have that conversation up front and open, and we felt that it had to be done very comprehensively. And
Mm.
we looked around at different ways to do it, and we felt that a public art project would be the best way, because it
Mhm.
means that you're walking down the high street, you see something, you go, "What's that?" You're drawn to it, and then you're in to the learning.
Yeah.
Um, and to Yinka Shonabare, because he's respected. His work is so cultural about Africa.
Yeah.
He always links everything back. And we just said, this is our idea. We want to tackle this transatlantic enslavement of Africans. We want people to know the whole truth. We also want it to be a project that allows Black Britons to feel proud of their achievements and their contributions to this country. So they're respected for their contributions to this country. So we want to make sure that we make Black people feel uplifted, not, oh my God, all we ever did was slaves, because we know that that's
Yeah.
not true. And that's always been the
Good.
pushback about that narrative, is that's all we're taught, is that we were. So we knew we wanted to tackle all of those things, and we felt art would be the way, but we just didn't know
Yeah.
what that art should be, what you should say, what it should be called. And we went to Yinka, and he's the one who said, I think you should use a globe, because we can redefine the world and reimagine the world. And that's what he said, that's what we're going to call it, the World Reimagined. So
Fantastic.
Yinka, founding artist, named it the World Reimagined, decided it should be a globe, and it took off from there. In the beginning, we thought there'll be 10 globes in London. We'll get artists to decorate these globes. We'll teach them about, what Africa was like before slavery. We want to make sure that we have a Still We Rise, so we show people what we achieved despite all the obstacles. We knew kind of the themes that we wanted to decorate these globes with. And it just went from 10 globes in London to 103 globes across 7
Yeah.
cities in Britain. It was just, once we started speaking to people and more people started going, as tricky as this conversation is, it's necessary,
Yeah.
the bigger and bigger it got.
And of course, recently it culminated in an exhibition in Trafalgar Square of, was it, how many globes were there?
I think 96 globes were in Trafalgar Square for the weekend.
So quite a few globes.
Yes, the
And
Mercy
people came.
The community came down. The community.
They were emotional.
People were crying. And you know what? When we were first talking about Trafalgar Square, I'm chair of the board as well as co-founder, and we were like, should we do it in Trafalgar Square, what it represents? And in the end, that was precisely why we should be in Trafalgar Square, because it does. It represents and encapsulates the British history that Britons have been taught to be proud of. And there we were surrounding Nelson's column and saying we are just as valid, just as important, and we should be just as recognised in history as he is. And that ended up being precisely why we should be in Trafalgar Square. And people cried because they finally felt seen, and that's what this project is about, saying you're seen, you're valued, and you should be valued across the board, across the country. And that's what this project has always strived to do.
And so it's not just educational in terms of using art as a medium, but the therapeutic benefits as well.
It's a holistic approach. It's a holistic approach. There's a lot of healing involved in it, as well as education. And you see real-time conversations. I mean, when I had that conversation with co-founder Dennis Marcus, I don't think I'd ever had an honest conversation with a white person about how I felt about the enslavement of Africans and how it hadn't been properly recognized and how amazing Africa was before slavery. I don't think I'd ever had that conversation with a white person. And that's what sparked me on those. I thought, well, if I could do that with someone that I just met, this is what we want everyone to engage in. Just have this conversation. And you saw it. I used to go on trails and you'd see one family on one side, another on another side, completely different ethnicity, religion, and they just stopped having a conversation. And you thought, this is all we could ask for, is for us to engage and recognize the value of Black Britain's contribution.
And famously, or interestingly and importantly, while the Globes were in Leeds, King Charles came.
He did.
And he viewed them, and I think he said or intimated that some more conversation needs to happen around this because of what it highlighted.
That's right, and he did. He realised that more conversation needs to be had. He wants to come to the table. He wants to learn more. He wants to listen more, and that's all you could do. You know, because you're thinking, okay, some people saying it's not patriotic to do this, and you're thinking, well, if the king thinks it's okay and thinks it's actually not more than okay, he thinks it's the right thing to do and the necessary thing to do, then he has to lead the country into this conversation.
Absolutely.
So Michelle, how do more cities take on the project? Is it something that they approach the charity about, or does the charity put out to the wider nation?
Well, the initial thing is that we approached cities and they said either yes or no, and the project was meant to end October the 31st, and that was going to be it. But now we have cities coming, oh no, we didn't get it before, and now we do get it, and let's try and do some more. So we're having meetings to see what the next steps are. But it does look like we will do something else because people have appreciated the opportunity to have those conversations and to feel seen and to feel respected and honoured.
Because it's interesting where you said the original plan was to have 10 Globes just in London. You know, so London's like the centre of everything, but it needs to kind of like flow out. So much more. I mean,
listen, once we knew to go on to Bristol and Liverpool straight away because of what they stand for, and Bristol and Liverpool were knowing what they stand for too, and how they made their money. Were one of the first cities in because of that. It was just more with London. It was just more a capacity thing because we just thought, oh my God, how are people going to want to do this? You know, and that's the reason it could expand is because people were willing to do more and to say we need to all be a part of this. So we ended up in Leeds, Liverpool, Birmingham, Leicester, Swansea. Where else? What have I missed? Bristol. Yeah,
Okay.
it was
Yeah. Because
wonderful.
Yeah.
we've moved a little way away from
Yeah.
London, and you know,
Yeah.
you're thinking, I'd like to see where we
Yeah.
go.
Just a thought, you know, if two people who run a magazine who live in a particular place decided to ask, and say, how could we get the globes in a place
Oh
called Norwich, for example?
yeah,
How
no,
would that
no.
work?
That's conversations that we're having because some of the globes were auctioned, and that money goes
Okay,
towards some of our charitable causes. So part of
fantastic.
the money will be going to organisations in the social justice, culture arena
Mm.
anyway. So we're a charity who's very much about supporting people who are in this space to making sure they're sustainable.
Brilliant.
And so all these conversations, yeah, are absolutely up for debate and discussion.